You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the August 18th, 2025 Special Council Meeting and Regular Council Meeting for the Town of St. Andrews. I'm Florence Mitchell. In the Special Council meeting, Senior Planner Xander Gopin will make a public presentation on Bylaw MP 25-01, the Town of St. Andrews Municipal Plan. In the regular council meeting under Finance and Administration, Councillor Heenan will move to approve the creation and release of a request for proposal for the management of the Market Wharf and Market Square Development Project. Under Public Works and Public Safety, Councillors Bennett and Neal will move that the scope for Project TSA 2025-07 for asphalt resurfacing be increased to include the base and seal asphalt of Canterbury Close for an additional tender price of $169,695 plus HST. Councillors Bennett and Neal will also move to enter into an encroachment agreement with Ken and Amanda Beaubien regarding parking along the shoulder of their home at 54 Princess Royal Street. Finally, under Recreation and Environment, Councillors Gumashell and Blanchard will move that Council enters into a land use agreement with St. Andrews Outdoor Recreation and Trails Incorporated to establish a gravel trail across 2 parcels of land under terms and conditions set by the CAO. Now let's join Council at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers in St. Andrews.
Okay, we'll call to order the regular council meeting for Monday, August the 18th, 2025 at, oh, sorry, I got the right one? Yeah, at 6 p.m. I got the right one, but the wrong date, 6 o'clock. So it's August the 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m., and this is the special council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I knew I was reading the wrong one. I got back to the wrong page. Sorry, excuse me. So, we have the recording of attendance, and everyone is present except for Councillor Hartland is away, and Councillor Bennett is having technical difficulties getting on, but as soon as he is able to get through, he will join us. So, that's the way technology works. I would like to acknowledge that we're on the territory of the Pescatomakati Nation. We welcome you, and we recognize that we are on this unceded traditional territory of the Passamaquoddies or the Pescatomakati people. The approval of the agenda as seen here. Councillor Heenan, second. Councillor Gumashell. Is there any additions? Not seeing any, then we will proceed on and vote. All those in favor of accepting the agenda as approved, say aye. 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 Carried. And so tonight we have disclosure of a conflict of interest. Anybody have a conflict of interest with the first meeting that we have, the special meeting? Not seeing any. We'll carry on. So we have a presentation, and today we're very honored to have Xander Gopin, the Senior Planner of the Housing Specialist for Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. And he's going to give us our presentation on our draft proposal of our municipal plan. Thank you, Xander. Mr. Gopin.
Thank you, Your Worship. So hopefully you won't cut me off right at 6:30. I'll do my best to go through this as quickly as I can. And this is just the initial public presentation. We'll be doing multiple kind of public engagement sessions after this where you'll have a chance to ask questions and give any feedback as well. There's at least a 30-day period where written feedback can be submitted. But this is really just the initial kind of formal public presentation under Section 25 of the Community Planning Act of the proposed municipal plan bylaw. We can go to the next slide, Chris. You're going to have to do that for me, sorry. Yeah. So briefly, what is a municipal plan? Municipal plans outline the at least 10-year framework and policy for the development of land and relevant changes to municipal bylaws, budgets, land infrastructure, facilities, services, grants, and/or programs. Council is not bound to carry out any plan proposal and can amend them as needed. Where will this apply? I've got some maps, a lot of maps, but it will be the entire municipal district. This is a change from the current bylaws, and I've got some slides for that too. The province is requiring the town of St. Andrews to adopt a new municipal plan no later than 2028. Also, some of the rural plans are very out of date and need to be updated, so it's time to do the whole thing. And how is this done? Municipal plan has to meet provincial acts. It has to be based on studies of the community's geography, economy, finances, responding to council's desired future policy directions, and achieving the outcomes generally desired by local people. Great. So these are the current bylaws, and this would have been in the background study and at any of those public engagement sessions. Just to give a brief overview of the geographic area we're talking about, includes the former local service districts, Shamcook, Bayside, and the former town of St. Andrews, what used to be the town of St. Andrews, now the whole thing is the town of St. Andrews. A lot of different bylaws and regulations that are in effect today. I won't talk about all of them, but as you can see, the rural plans are from 2009 and 2011, respectively. We have updated the former town's municipal plan a little bit more recently, but with the amalgamation, it all needs to be done as one. Next slide, please. So most people who are here were at some public engagement sessions we did, kind of talking about the background study and how what information we've learned from that. We did public engagement sessions back in I think it was October of 2024. We did them in Bayside, Shamcook, here as well as online. We got a bunch of surveys back from the public, and we condensed that into these kind of 7 big picture, I guess you could call them objectives of the municipal plan. So continued delivery of high quality public services and infrastructure, protection and conservation of the physical environment, including protection of the Shamcook Lake drinking watershed, mitigating and adapting to the impacts of climate change, including erosion and sea level rise, developing housing that meets the need of all residents, specifically housing that is affordable, preservation of rural way of life and rural economic development, including promotion of local agriculture, tourism that supports local residents and businesses without straining resources, and maintaining the historically significant character of the St. Andrews area. And I'll talk about each one of those and how the municipal plan is responding to that through the presentation. Before I talk about those kind of individual pieces, objectives, if we can go to the next slide, Chris. We knew it was going to be a bit of a challenge to sort of take the whole municipality, all of those plans, new provincial acts and regulations, and kind of put it into the pot and have it come out with something that really works for everybody in the former local service districts who have a more rural way of life, in the serviced area where things are more urban. You've got tourism, you've got all these sort of different things going on. So with the background study, that helped us kind of get a better understanding of everything, and as well doing the public feedback with folks, kind of checking in, making sure we're going in the right direction. So we look at historical development patterns. What is here currently? How did that get here? What is the existing geography? Where are water courses, lakes? What are the importance of those? Different topographies, that all has an impact on how development happens. Infrastructure as well. Geography can kind of be seen as natural infrastructure, but there is also physical infrastructure like roads. In the service boundaries of the town, you've got sewers, potable water supplies, power, all of these different things which kind of make up the existing set of what what there is to work with. And then it's also really important to look at future trends and where things are going. As best as possible, we can't predict the future, but you can sort of lay out different scenarios and look at demographic trends and try and predict, well, if these trends continue, like if we see the really extreme growth that we've had in the serviced areas of St. Andrews, what does that mean? How do we adapt to that? How do we plan for that future? We also look at the regulations that have existed. I went through that big list. So some of them have a lot of relevance, like the most recent St. Andrews Municipal Plan was done fairly recently. So it's a little bit more up to date. Some of those rural plans are really out of date. But at that time when they were created, it was created with community input. So it's important to kind of get a sense of that. And there are new provincial regulations. I've talked about the statements of public interest before, but the Community Planning Act has given a lot more direction to planners and municipalities and how to set out these documents than was the case in the past, even when we did the previous municipal plan. So making sure that these plans comply with those, as well as looking at best practices. A lot of best practices are in those statements and in that Community Planning Act, but there have been a lot of changes in the last 5 years, and so we try and keep on top of that and see what other small tourism-based, municipalities are doing. Are there things that are working well for them, things that aren't? So we don't plan in a vacuum. We look to other places and see how they're dealing with a lot of the same challenges that St. Andrews is dealing with. And we also, we've gotten a certain amount of public input so far. And we did that through the background study. We're now starting the municipal plan public input process, and there'll be several opportunities for that. And the municipal plan is really setting the stage for the zoning bylaw, which is where we'll start to see specific standards, land uses, and it is really where you can see how this municipal plan is implemented, how it will affect specific properties, and what kind of the specific development patterns that it would allow sets out. The municipal plan does set the stage for that. So there's some kind of, as I go through the presentation, you'll be able to see, I think, how the geographical areas that we're identifying could feed into different zones. But that level of specificity we're not quite at yet. And so right now we're really just talking about the municipal plan. But the idea is the background study has informed the municipal plan, and the municipal plan is what will inform the zoning bylaw. So now I'll talk about those public, the objectives that we heard based on the public feedback and how the municipal plan is addressing them. I'm not going to be able to hit every single policy. It's a fairly lengthy document, but it is online, and I encourage everybody to read through it. So some of the key policies for continued delivery of high quality public services and infrastructure, and you can see some of the different street diagrams and road classifications. We have these maps in the bylaw. They need to be in the bylaw, but we also have them as a kind of virtual interactive application. So these maps aren't terribly useful for most people. You can't really see very much, but as soon as this is over, we'll post the presentation and those the link to the virtual map so you can really zoom in, search by your address, get a better sense of it. So don't try and take zoom in pictures of the maps, because there'll be much better ways to see those. So long-term asset management planning, very important for all municipalities. Something St. Andrews is doing a very good job of currently. It's important that that continues. It's very apparent going from municipality to municipality when this is happening and when it isn't. And when you are doing it well, like St. Andrews is, it's something you really want to stay on top of, continue doing. The challenges are only going to grow, but St. Andrews is in a fairly good position. Now, one of the ways to maintain that position is to not significantly expand infrastructure. And one of the ways to do that is make sure that development, especially more intense development that needs more sewer or water capacity, it's happening in the already serviced areas. So it's not leading to more sprawl. If there is going to be expansion outside of the urban service boundary, which is something that's mapped, it should be looked at really closely as a municipal plan amendment, and it should be ensured that there is significant public benefit to that, because there will be a cost to maintain that infrastructure in the long term. Along those same lines, making sure that development really matches the road capacity that it's on. So there's all sorts of different types of roads and streets in the municipality. Bayview Drive here is a very different type of street from Water Street. So you get out into the former local service districts, Route 127. The province classifies these in different ways. The town did a traffic study several years ago, and it analyzed some of the streets in this way as well. So making sure that the type of development on a road matches the capacity of that road. So you don't want to put tons of new units on a road that is only designed to handle a few units and to basically be a kind of a local street. There's obviously opportunities to upgrade, but really looking at capacity and matching development to capacity is kind of a theme of the municipal plan, not just for roads, but for all services and natural capacity. As well, just kind of another thing, St. Andrews has great recreational spaces, really good recreational programming, something that's improved with a dedicated recreation programming director. But it is important to preserve those public spaces for recreational use, not lose them over time. If there's opportunities to take advantage of other spaces and make them public recreation spaces, that might be a good opportunity. So going to the next slide, and this relates very much to infrastructure, especially in St. Andrews, where your drinking water is a piece of natural infrastructure. It's the Shamcook Lake watershed. So that's a very critical piece of infrastructure. And I remember when we did the municipal plan in 2024, one of the policies was work with the province and landowners to try and, make better decisions around Shamcook Lake because it's not in the municipal boundaries. Well, now it is. So there's a lot more opportunities. We can establish different zones around it. It makes sense to align them with the overarching provincial standards. So where you have the watershed area under the Clean Water Drinking Act, as well, you've got the wetland and watercourse area. That regulation under the Clean Water Act as well, WAWA, so establishing conservation zones around watercourses, wetlands, and where the St. Croix corridor was, as well as non-built-up coastlines outside of the former town boundaries. And there's a few different zones that are proposed to deal with that. One would be a high-priority conservation zone that severely limits development, restricts tree clearing, would have allowances for pre-existing uses. So if there's already development there, there's the understanding that could expand within reasonable limits. There would also be a lower priority conservation zone, more for recreational assets, parks. There's also the Zone C of the Shamcook watershed, which is the majority of it, outside of 75 meters. That's not as critical of an area, and so limited development, still fairly low impact, could be allowed there. And finally, there's a lot of other policies, but one other one I'd like to highlight is using natural and engineered infrastructure to manage stormwater. There's a policy that refers to net zero stormwater runoff being a principle for new developments. We'll go to the next slide. And as I was making this presentation, it was really clear how all of these policies and maps actually tied into each other. So as I'm talking about stormwater management, another objective is to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change, including erosion and sea level rise. Stormwater management is becoming more and more important as we have bigger and bigger storms, and the rain events we get are significantly stronger, like the one we had yesterday, even though it wasn't very long. I've noticed part of my driveway was impacted by it in a way that gentler storms don't do. But I think the big item here is overlay zones for projected 2100 high tide and 2100 flood zones with development restrictions. This is a continuation of there's a sea level rise zone in the current zoning bylaw for St. Andrews. And this is just updating it with the new models that are now provided by the province. That wasn't something we had when we did that before. So the province gives us good data, and they tell us, here are the areas you need to plan for, and so we can map that and plan for it. As well, we're able to see infrastructure at risk in there, and this is something the town is already proactively working on. We had a session a few weeks ago working to prioritize different pieces of coastal infrastructure that are at risk, but that's carried through in the municipal plan as well. Something that's quite top of mind probably for everybody right now is emergency evacuation and ensuring new subdivisions are designed with that in mind. There's been mistakes that have been made in the past with subdivision design and having one long road that is the access point to that with lots of homes, and if that road gets cut off by, let's say, a forest fire, then that's going to be a big problem. So that needs to be addressed in emergency management. But if we're going to be approving new subdivisions, really, really important not to allow those, not to repeat those mistakes. And that also aligns with promoting efficient and sustainable settlement patterns. This is more on the mitigating side of climate change, but the more we can direct those more impactful developments to the already serviced area, where things are largely walkable. It is a little bit hard to entirely live in St. Andrews without a car if you want to get off the peninsula, but if you're living in downtown, it's certainly possible, and that's one of the best ways to mitigate the effects of climate change is making sure people have the ability to walk and bike and get places using low impact vehicles when possible. So another important area, and this has been important for a while, and something that the town has absolutely made, I'd say, significant progress on when we look at what's happened in the last 5 years with apartments and units going into St. Andrews. We do studies on these things, and St. Andrews is very close to meeting its 5-year goals, which we'll have to look at again and update. But one of the ways that can be achieved and has been is by permitting a broad range of residential and mixed-use housing. That also ties back to the efficient and sustainable land use. There's mixed uses where there's the ability to work or go shopping that's attached to residential development. Then you get these great lively neighborhoods, very similar to what Water Street is today. If council is going to be involved in affordable housing, specifically funding affordable housing, it should be prioritized on a data-based approach. And we have really good data now that's tailored for St. Andrews to what very low income and low income households can afford to pay monthly in shelter costs. And that's really the level that council should be targeting. And they've done a little bit of that. But I think without necessarily this kind of specific data to support it. Another policy that really ties in with everything we've talked about so far is if there's going to be new rural residential subdivisions, they should be along actively maintained public roads. That deals with public safety. It deals with sprawl. And it also helps ensure that some of these more established, lower intensity areas in the local service districts don't become kind of more suburban in nature and can retain their rural character. On the next slide, one back, Chris. Mr. Spear, sorry. I already got called by my first name. So tourism that supports local residents and businesses without straining resources. Oh, sorry, one. There, I think there was one in between.
There was.
Should be forwards. Oh, I guess it is one more forwards. We'll go back. I don't know what happened there. Did I skip? I skipped mine. Let's go back one more. Let's keep Chris on his toes. Okay, so we just talked about the rural kind of lifestyle and not having that become this very suburban thing with subdivisions everywhere, and promoting local agriculture. There's a lot of good agriculture development happening in the Bayside, mostly the Bayside area that I'm familiar with at least. And we've used the background study to identify prime farm pasture land, so there's soil classifications, as well as historical fields that have been maintained. And once you have fields, it's really hard to, well, it's hard to make fields once you've cleared them, dug all the rocks. It's a lot of work. And so if those are areas that could be seen as really great for subdividing and making a subdivision because it takes not very much work, but fields are a really important part of local agriculture. You wouldn't have local beef without local hay, and a lot of that comes from the local fields as well as feed for horses. And I know if Carolyn Davies was here, she would say something about horses. So that's my nod to her. So there's the rural resource expansion area would tie into this R3 zone, which is really about protecting farm and rural resource lands. It's not just about making sure they can't be easily subdivided. The other impact is once you start having more and more small lots encroaching onto existing farmland, especially where there's livestock. Inevitably, you end up getting complaints about that livestock. Councilor Heenan actually sent me a funny picture over the weekend, which was a sign that says, warning, you're in an agricultural area, there will be animals, there might be smells and all these things. Establishing that in zoning and making it really clear that this is what this area, parts of these areas are. It's not the whole area. There's other areas for that lower intensity type of development, but actually limiting residential development in the R3 zone unless it's tied to some type of resource-based activity. It's not just agriculture, it could also be forestry. On the flip side, these uses can have impacts, and especially on drinking water wells. So the Department of Agriculture provides tons and tons of standards on separation distances from wells and water courses and how many animal units produce different types of manure loads. So we can use that and create zoning standards that allow reasonable livestock use in agricultural areas without negative impacts. Now we're on this slide. So tourism that supports local residents and businesses without straining resources. One of the big issues that we all know is that parking can be a bit of a challenge in town, especially in the summer where we have lots of tourists. I experienced this myself today. And the town is actively working to develop on and off-street public parking that would help to alleviate some of this. But put that in the municipal plan. As well, short-term rental uses are something that once you start getting too many of them, it really does impact a local way of life, and it does impact the housing market. Don't know what the province is doing in terms of their regulation, but I know they have a task force that's looking at potentially regulating it from a provincial level. The policy in the municipal plan is to limit those uses to being a secondary use outside of the higher intensity zone. So in your low-intensity rural areas, in your kind of lower-intensity urban areas, making sure it's only a secondary use, so there has to be a regular resident. If there's going to be a short-term rental, it doesn't become these kind of ghost hotel things. As well, a lot of progress since the last municipal plan. That time we talked about exploring a heritage conservation bylaw. That has now been put in place. And heritage is a very important part of tourism in St. Andrews. The built heritage, saw it on the cover slide. As well, if the town could establish a grant program, it's really nice to have a carrot and stick approach when you're doing heritage. So if you're going to regulate what people can do with their properties to that level where you're talking, you can't alter this column because it's a character defining element, you have to do it in this way. It's really nice if you can say, but here's a little bit of help to do that. And that will ensure that the built heritage assets in town stay that way and are a vibrant part of the community. Promote shoulder season and winter tourism. Kind of seems like that's getting harder and harder as winters get warmer and warmer, but in some ways maybe it's getting easier, and I think I notice myself, we do see more people here in the fall. We do see more people here in April and May, but I think there is opportunity. The Christmas time here is, it's really magical. Not just saying that because Vicky's here, but a lot of hard work goes into making St. Andrews a really great place in the winter. And locals know that and appreciate it. And I think the word's starting to get out, but let's keep moving that forward. Finally, maintaining the historically significant character of the St. Andrews area. I did mention heritage being important for tourism. That's mostly the colonial built heritage that we're talking about. More and more, I think we need to acknowledge, and I think St. Andrews is acknowledging that the historical character includes Indigenous culture as well, and that's an ongoing cultural expression. It's not just the heritage, just like settler culture is. It's important to conserve all heritage resources in a manner that respects their value to the community, ensures integrity, and enables functional viability. It's one thing to preserve a building, but if nothing can happen inside that building and no culture can actually take place, that's more of a museum than a community. So making sure that that culture that existed at the time of whenever that built heritage was built, what that purpose was, that some of that carries through. Someone from Minister's Island once said, we're not going to build things exactly the way Van Horn would build them, but we want to build them in the style that he would have done it, which was using the newest technology, the best materials, but understanding that those in 1876 are not the same as they are in 2026. I mentioned the Heritage Bylaw and Grant Program. Another way to kind of make sure that there is that culture and activity that happens in these spaces is encouraging pedestrian scale businesses to locate in the historic business district. If there aren't reasons for people to be in that historical business district, they will not go there, and they won't spend money there. It will be harder for the businesses to invest in their upkeep. And over time, you'll see kind of a hollowing out, and that's not something anybody wants. So making sure that there might be some businesses that it makes sense not to be there, that they're going to be more car-oriented, but where you can have people walking, getting an ice cream cone, lemonade, those kinds of things, really, really good to be in the historic business district. Further, in discussions with council, it was made very clear that council would like to really be in control of the development that happens in the historic business district, further than the secondary municipal plan has gone. So there would be a special overlay for the historic business district where any development that would significantly be changing the exterior of a building, expansions, anything like that would basically have to come to council for approval. There's mechanisms in the Community Planning Act to do that, but that's what council has asked for. And so that's kind of the overall objectives of the plan, gone over time. So I'll quickly cover the next steps. And I think all of this will be posted on the website. So if you want to review the municipal plan and maps, and again, we will post that better, easier to use map, you can go to the townofstandrews.ca. You can also stop into the office. I'm sure they'll be happy to give you a plan. If you have overall feedback, concerns, or support, the best thing to do is to contact council at, I think it's town@standrews.ca, or is it iTown?
No,
Town. Subject municipal plan. If you wonder how this plan is going to affect my property specifically, probably best to get in touch with me, and I've got my contact information there. If you want to have more discussions on this, really be able to ask questions, have answers. It is great to have them in writing. It gives a chance to prepare. But we've already scheduled 4 public information and feedback sessions that will take place before council does anything else with this bylaw. We haven't hit the, there's been no readings. PAC hasn't been asked for their views. We haven't scheduled a public hearing. I don't expect any of that will happen until we've been able to get a bunch of public feedback, incorporate it into the document, and take it back to council. So there will be on September 4th, probably not right here, probably upstairs at 6 p.m. And we'll have a lot longer to go into things. Bayside Hall on September 11th. Shamcook, we're not quite sure where yet, but it's also going to be at the same time. My colleague Alex is going to do one of those. We'll split up. And we'll do a virtual one on September 17th at 11 a.m. And then we'll take that municipal plan, and then once council's more or less happy with it, we've incorporated the public feedback, we'll start doing the feedback on the zoning bylaw because they talk to each other so much. We want them to kind of be moving together, and if we need to make significant changes to the zoning bylaw, we'll probably have to make them to the municipal plan, so we don't want that process to be kind of all wrapped up before the zoning bylaw is at least underway. So stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Gopin. Are you taking questions now for this, or you want to wait till afterwards?
I think if council has anything, I'm happy to answer. I think it's best to
Give it to-
talk with the public at the public feedback.
Okay, great. Okay, council, any discussion or any questions? Mr. Spear?
I just want to put forward, there's no start on September 18th.
Okay.
We just have to make sure we get the Bayside Hall, if we may have to come tonight.
Okay.
So that should be tentative for now, but we'll get straightened out
Okay.
tomorrow. We're going to bring the P and get that at the Bayside Hall. So just so people are aware, formally, and once we get it straightened, we'll put that immediately, put out bailouts and lots of communication for those dates.
And Shamcook has to be announced as to where it's going to be, right?
So,
Shamcook has to be announced as to where it's going to be because we don't have a
yes,
place
well,
yet.
we've got 2 locations I have to reach out.
Okay.
We just figured this out Thursday before I headed out the door, so I have to make a call tomorrow. So
Thank you.
we'll have it figured out before the end of the week.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Council? Well, there being, Mr. Counselor Neal? No? Okay, so thank you, Mr. Gopin, for sharing your wisdom again on our municipal plan, and we look forward to being, to the public hearings. All right. There are no motions or passing of bylaws at this time. There's no new business. Question period? No question period. So we just go for adjournment. So I need first a mover, Counselor Heenan, and a seconder, Counselor Blanchard. All those in favor? Aye. Counter-minded? Carried, we are finished for tonight, for this one. We'll take a 10-minute break and then be ready for our
Recording
other one.
stopped.
So, we will start the regular council meeting of Monday, August the 18th, 2025, for the town of St. Andrews at 7:12 PM. We've had some technical issues that have caused us to be a little bit delayed, so please bear with us. We're at the WC Arena O'Neill Complex here in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. The first thing is recording of attendance, and all are present except for Councillor Harland, who is away, and Councillor Bennett, who's having technical difficulties like we are. So we sympathize with you, and we look forward, if you can get on, to joining us, Councillor Bennett. The next on the agenda is the land recognition of the Pescatawamacati Nation, and I'd like to let you know that we are welcome on the unceded traditional territory of the Pescatawamacati people, or the Passamaquoddies. So, welcome. And approval of the agenda. I need a mover, Councillor Deputy Mayor Neal, Acting Deputy Mayor Neal. I'll get it right yet. And I need a seconder, Councillor Heenan. All those in favor of the, oh, sorry, is there any additions?
There had to be an amendment, actually.
Okay.
The approval of the minutes, F2, those minutes were distributed, the way
Okay.
made out, the council actually didn't have it in their package, so we'll do that in a
Postpone
couple
it?
weeks.
So this
So
is,
the first minutes that weren't included. the
Okay.
second set,
I couldn't
we'll
find
bring
them.
forward next meeting.
Okay, to next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Spear. So with the amendment, could I, no, we have to vote first on the agenda as is, so we have the first,
So vote on the amendment.
do the amendment
Vote on the
first.
amendment first.
Okay, the amendment first. Okay, so I need a mover for the amendment. Counselor Gumashell beat you, Counselor Heenan, just by a little bit. And seconded by Counselor Heenan. So now we will vote on that amendment of leaving the minutes till the next meeting because we didn't have them in our package.
Just a second set of minutes.
Yeah, the second set of minutes, the number F2. We're going to leave that till our next meeting, so. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried, and now we'll vote on the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. And now we proceed on. Disclosure of a conflict of interest. Councillor Blanchard?
Yeah, I'll have a conflict on our item PWPS 250813.
250813.
Yeah, increased scope for asphalt project.
Thank you very much. Any others? Nope. Okay, presentations, we do not have any at this time. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. We only have the first set, which is the 28:07:21 minutes of the regular meeting of council on July 21st, 2025 at 6:30 PM. So the minutes of the 28:07:21 regular council meeting on Monday, July 21st, at 2025 at 6:30 PM be adopted. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. So we don't have to read through those. Oh,
Get a mover, a second.
oh, sorry, I didn't do that. Mover, please. Counselor Blanchard, seconder. Counselor Gumashell. Now we have to vote again, sorry. Not catching on to this tonight. Blanchard and Gumashell. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. And we're postponing those. Communications, any communications? I didn't see any. Staff reports. Mr. Spear.
Council, we have now crossed the peak of summer and are on the downside towards fall. It has been a hot and sunny summer, but with the heat and drought conditions, the province is leading the charge with municipalities to minimize risk that could lead to more wildfires. Council, earlier this evening we had a public presentation on the municipal plan. Although the previous plan was updated in 2022, with local governance reform taking place in 2023, it's advisable we consolidate the rural plans with the municipal plan and create an all-encompassing zoning bylaw, so all citizens can continue to have a say in development. On the agenda tonight are two requests for the use of town land, for the creation of a trail and another to create parking at a residence. In an effort to control the use of public property, especially those that may have infrastructure on top of it or under it, property owners need to approach council on the use of town property to ensure your use may be appropriate. Without these agreements, council has the right to ask you to restore municipal property to its original state. This includes the filling in of ditches to extend lawns. On the agenda tonight is consideration to do an additional street refurbishment as the asphalt tender is substantially under budget. With various streets deteriorating, being able to expand the project this year because of lower construction costs, it will reduce the overall investment needed as we refurbish assets before they reach a failure state. Also included on the agenda tonight is we pulled it, sorry. On the second Monday of most months since 2023, staff have led meetings where we update council on our initiatives and upcoming items for them to consider. Anything that requires debate and resolution is moved to a regular or special council meeting. Those meetings are listed as closed in the procedural bylaw, but the doors have never been locked. However, council will suspend the rules and invite the public to attend in person. The bylaw will need to be updated, but that will take time. Administration. With the drought conditions we are experiencing, we have decided to close the trails until the province opens the Crown lands. Remembering most of our firefighters are volunteers in New Brunswick, anything we can do to protect them from having to engage in battling wildfires is protecting our family, friends, and council members. Is a simple duty we individually can fulfill. It is that time of year again as we prepare for the 2026 budget. Staff are just getting the process underway, and with some uncertainty related to assessments and equalization grants, plus the ongoing recruitment of the clerk position, we will be a few weeks later in putting together early draft. Staff are aware of the importance of it and will make it a priority over the next few weeks. The extreme heat events we have been experiencing are a challenge for our outdoor staff and those not in air-conditioned facilities. We have asked for the most intense work to be completed in the early morning while doing lighter or indoor duties later in the day. Many lawns, including our own, have stopped growing, so that takes pressure off these tasks and gives us flexibility in assigning duties. I would like to welcome Ella White to our team as she has been hired as our receptionist. She has many years' experience in administration in the private sector, so we look forward to her experience. Nancy Cooper was kind enough to come in and start training with her. Services. The summer has been busy in recreation as we host both day camps at the arena and drop-in activities at the youth center. They have been utilizing many more partners like Sunbury Shores, Katie's Cove, the Fundy Discovery Aquarium, and others. We also, in collaboration with Kira, had expanded activities on the New Brunswick Day weekend that were well attended and continue to draw residents and visitors to the area. We also participated in the first ever Fundy Pirates Fest, which seemed to be a huge success, including the well-attended cardboard boat race at Katie's Cove. A huge thank you to the aquarium, who jointly staged activities with us to provide a wide assortment of opportunities. Some of you may have seen the online article from the Courier about water conservation. Staff are out daily measuring the lake level at the dam, and while it has certainly dropped since mid-June, we currently are not near historic lows. That said, the province has requested citizens to practice conservation now, and staff have noticed most property owners are not watering their lawns, and we do appreciate that. Internally, we are working to lower our use as well. Without rain, though, we could be formally asking our users to conserve more heavily over the next few weeks. In addition to the capital road construction, or reconstruction, staff have a budget item for paving smaller portions of streets and parking lots. In order to avoid high traffic times, staff started early in the morning prepping the spaces and preparing for the asphalt. For those that were disturbed, we apologize but appreciate understanding as we try to minimize traffic disruptions midday and later. The visitor numbers to our cultural sites are about the same this July as last, although the year-to-date figures are still higher than 2024. The blockhouse visitations appear to be way up in July, as it reports 10,000 visitors. A common location for people to get close to the water and to picnic. The numbers include those on the property, not just those going into Park Canada's facility. In addition to their usual duties, Public Works is completing ongoing renovations at the youth center as well as redoing the electrical at Town Hall. We're appreciative of their talents to reduce the overall cost of projects by reducing the need of outside contractors. In conclusion, with the cooler weather coming sometime, attention is now drawn to fall activities. Trail Fest, weather permitting, is planned on September 27th, which is also the same weekend of Oktoberfest. There will also be lots of consultation sessions between the budget, municipal plan, and zoning bylaw, and the recreation master plan, all coming forward this autumn. Staff will endeavor to keep everyone informed of all these sessions through the website, social media, and mail it. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear, CAO Treasurer. Deputy Clerk, Plummer? No. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much for doing all that you do, Mr. Spear. I appreciate it. I know you're filling in big shoes and everybody's shoes down there because it is a tough time at this time, but we're muddling through, and I appreciate all your assistance and work. All right. We need to move the adoption. Ask for questions, sorry. Any questions about the staff reports? Councillor Weir.
I'll just make a comment on the lake water levels. They are substantially higher than the historical lows. I have a gentleman that's been there 20 years, and he says they're at least 8 inches higher than what he can. He has a little stick, he marks it on.
Yep.
So,
Oh, that's great.
so we still have lots of water in the lake.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank
Weir.
you, Councillor Weir. That's good news. Yes, Councillor Heenan.
I would like to say a big thank you to the Public Works for their extra endeavors that they take on, i.e., as we recognize the washrooms at Town Hall and now the work at the Youth Center. I think going above and beyond by our town staff is very appreciative, and I'm sure every member of the community appreciates the tax savings, but also we need to appreciate these people who are working very hard to keep our town the way it is. And I want to say a special thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Heenan. Yes, those washrooms are lovely downtown now. I've heard a lot of reports about that. So now, any more further comments? We need a mover for the staff reports. Councillor Heenan, seconder. Councillor Gumichel. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. So now we have the staff and reports and financial reports. And the first one up is the introduction and consideration of passing bylaws and motions. One, the Finance and Administration Committee, and Councillor Heenan fills in for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council. This is reference number FA 250830, Request for Proposal Project Management Services. With the Wharf and Square refurbishment project gone to tender, Council is now interested in engaging a project consultant to manage the project to keep it on time and on budget. This motion is to authorize staff to put this next phase out to tender. The current arrangement with CHCO-TV CHCL ends with the issuing and awarding of the tender. The RFP would run concurrently during the tender process and would only be awarded if council awards the wharf refurbishment project. Staff will work informally with council to create the document before releasing it. And the motion before us is that council approves the creation and release of a request for proposal for project management of Market Wharf and Market Square Development Project, and I, your worship, so move.
Thank you, Counselor Heenan. Seconder, Counselor Weir. Any further discussion, council? Counselor Neal?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question for staff here. The last statement there saying staff will work informally with council to create the document before releasing it, so we'll have a chance to see that before it goes out? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Neal, Deputy Mayor. Okay, any further discussion? Any further discussion on this? If not, we'll move for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Carried. The next one, Counselor Bennett, for the Public Works and Safety, Counselors Bennett and Neal. It's the, increased project scope, asphalt project, and that's the one Counselor Blanchard has to, he's gone. Good, okay. You may begin, Counselor Neal, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Axge. This is reference number PWPS 250813, and the subject is the increased project scope for the asphalt project. So the background reads that at the July 21st, 2025 regular session of council, Galbraith Construction was awarded the asphalt tender for 2025. Due to a decrease in the scope of the original project and the elimination of the fuel carbon tax, the project came $580,000 under budget. Some of the asphalting related to the widening of Prince of Wales is partially funded through a federal grant. So consequently, there is approximately $260,000 of unused funding from internal sources. One of the asphalt projects slated for 2026 under our asset management plan is for Canterbury Close, which is severely dilapidated. The cost to add this to the tender, including engineering, is $169,695 plus HST, and it's staff's recommendation to add this additional work to the tender. So the motion reads that we move that the scope, seems we're missing a line there, but I'm going to say that the council
TSA?
of the town of St. Andrews move that the scope for the project TSA 2025-07 St. Andrews Asphalt 2025 be increased to include the base and seal asphalt of Canterbury Close for an additional tender price of $169,695 plus HST, and I so move.
Thank you, Counselor Neal, Deputy Mayor Neal. We need a seconder. Counselor Heenan? Any further discussion, council? I'm seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. And could you let Counselor Blanchard back in, please? Thank you, Counselor Blanchard. I didn't even see you sneak off. All right, so we're on to the next one, which is encroachment agreement, request 54 Princess Royal Street. Counselor Neal, Deputy Mayor Neal.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is PWPS 250816. Again, the subject, the encroachment agreement request for 54 Princess Royal Street. The background reads that Ken and Amanda Bovan, hope I'm saying that right, own a home at 54 Princess Royal Street that was built without a driveway, but with a carriageway. Over the last few years, as a result of more development and higher tourism, access to their property has been problematic. They are asking to get into an encroachment agreement with the town so they are able to extend and widen the shoulder in front of their house in order to create a dedicated parking spot so they can sign it as private and provide continuous access to their property. So the motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews enters into an encroachment agreement with Ken and Amanda Boban regarding parking along the shoulder of their home at 54 Princess Royal Street, and I will so move.
Thank you, Councillor Deputy Mayor Neal. We need a seconder, please. Councillor Blanchard. Any further discussion? Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, just a question on this. Does this any way, like this encroachment and extending out their yard or whatever it is, does it impact any drainage ditches or anything like that that we would have as part of an easement or anything?
Councillor, Mr. Spear?
I don't think so. I think it's all underground there, but certainly our asset manager is on vacation this week, but we won't get into the finality of it till he's back to provide those last couple of bits of advice.
Yes. Councillor Heenan?
Yes, Your Worship. I have I'm no problem with this motion. I just don't want it to be setting a precedent for people around town to all of a sudden think that we can, if we do this encroachment agreement, that they are able to just put signs up in front of their lawn that say private parking, et cetera, when it hasn't gone through the town. And that's my big concern with this. I understand totally because there is no driveway. I understand completely. It's just that we have some issues with certain individuals in town who feel that they can put up orange cones whenever they wish. And this, I don't want it to be encouragement of that particular practice. Thank you.
Councillor Heenan. I know,
Okay.
no, you go ahead, Mr. Spear.
I just wanted to reply to Councillor Heenan. I guess two things was, number one, and not so much most people in the room know, but this particular house is a heritage property too, just so people watching know that it wasn't built by the current occupants without a driveway. It's just they've restored a home there that never had one. We are sending out the bylaw enforcement officer because there are people trying to put pylons out in front, and they asked what they could do, this particular homeowner, because they were having this trouble, and this seemed to be the best option from staff's perspective in order to assist them and get them through the 2 or 3 months of tourism season.
But we do not want cones everywhere. That was one of the things we discussed.
Correct. That's why the encroachment agreement kind of creates a little driveway. So, people can for people with a normal driveway, they can stick a sign right on the driveway or pylons or something saying, "Don't park here, please." And we have those a couple places along Water Street. But because right now in front of this particular residence, all it is a shoulder, they don't have that opportunity, under our bylaws. And so this seemed to be the best avenue for them to be able to make their, a full-time resident a little easier, a little more accessible to their property. As they said in their correspondence, they sometimes park 2 or 3 blocks away in the heart of the day just because they can't get up their street.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Does this mean we are going to look at cones in the town?
No.
No? But they're not allowed.
So this particular homeowner's it's more than just, they're gonna extend the shoulder deeper towards their home.
Yes.
And create like a wider parallel parking spot essentially. And in the inside of that, they can put private property because they have an agreement with the town now on that.
Councillor Heenan.
May I have a second question?
Sure.
One, it's not going to bother with the snow plowing. Am I correct, Mr. Spear?
That's correct. The homeowners have been good. They do park off on the winter to try to get their cars off, but during snow events, they actually usually move their cars out of the way, anticipating our crews would be making runs through, because it's a lot easier to move your car when the snow's starting than to dig it out after the snow stops. So
Correct.
this
Thank
particular
you.
homeowner's been very good about moving things when needed.
And continuing on, Your Worship, would it be possible for the town to have the sign put in, not the owner? Like, would it be possible for us to put up a no parking sign or a private parking sign with the town emblem on it?
I would not recommend it because it requires a change to the bylaw.
Okay.
And now we're turning it into, we're basically giving them rights to that property, which
Okay.
gives them kind of similar rights to private property, if you will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Any further questions, council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried. The next one is economic, no, we don't have one. Recreation and Environment Committee, Councilors Gomichelle and Blanchard. Whichever one of you is reading it.
I think it's me.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Blanchard.
Thanks. Reference number RE 250808, subject land use agreement for trail expansion. The background is St. Andrews Outdoor Recreation and Trails Incorporated has submitted a request to build a gravel trail from the new trail behind Diana Drive to a neighboring pond just north of the trail. It will cross two of the town's land parcels. The establishment of the trail will not involve the cutting of any standing trees. SORDI understands that the long-term use of the property has not been determined, and the proposed trail would be gravel only and subject to changes because of future development. Staff suggest a land use agreement to allow the trail, subject to terms and conditions of the Chief Administrative Officer. If preferred, an agreement can be drafted and brought to council for final approval. And the motion before council is that the council enters into a land use agreement with St. Andrews Outdoor Recreation and Trails Incorporated to establish a gravel trail across parcel identifiers 1325471 and 1506404 under terms and conditions set by the CAO, and I so move.
Thank you, Councilor Blanchard. Seconder, Councilor Neal. Discussion, council. Councilor Gomichelle.
Thank you, Worship. Just briefly, I looked at this and I don't think it's possible to not cut any trees, but it is possible to do without cutting any trees of consequence. So there's some small trees that have to come out, but it's impossible to put a trail through a wooded area without taking down some small trees. But the plan is to not cut any trees of consequence or big trees. So there will be a couple trees that'll have to come down, small bushes.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilor Gomichelle. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this happening, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Carried unanimously. There is no Planning Community Development Committee statements, so we're into new business. Anything new come up? No. Now we're into question period. Are there any questions from online? And I forgot to mention at the very beginning that you could send your questions to clerk@townofstandrews.ca. We've created a new account for that. Is there anybody online, Mr. Spear, that might require a question or wants to?
Lots of pressure on me, Your Worship. Just give me a moment.
Sorry.
Okay, there's no one on the Zoom link, so there's no one there.
Okay.
Just give me a moment, I'll have to fire up my other computer. Maybe jump into
Let's go into
comments,
comments
and then
and
I'll
come
let you
back
know once
if there's any question. Thank you, Mr. Spear. So now we are at the councillor and deputy mayor's comments. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, Councillor Weir.
Yes, I guess I'm referring back to our previous special meeting or presentation in that communication with the public to be at those meetings scheduled at this time for the 11th. Is there any adverse reason why particular councilors cannot go out and encourage residents to be there and do our own lobbying to get a good turnout?
Absolutely not. I'll give you personal invitations to hand out to people if you like. And Council too, we've gotten some correspondence with people that have some concerns about it, but this is just, the council decided to take a route of trying to put a framework of something together initially and then have people provide lots of comments on it. The municipal plan that we're currently giving out could change 100 ways to Sunday between now and before it's finally adopted. So, I would say to anyone so we've well, I won't name anything that's in there, but we've had people say, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. Well, good, thank you for the comment. You know, there's some best practices and some of the things that council's adopted through the planners, but it doesn't mean it can't be changed. That we haven't had a first reading, we haven't had anything, but here's a presentation. Now it's going out to the public, it's online. I will say what we'll try to do is get copies of those maps and maybe put them at the arena, the washrooms or areas always open, and get them fairly big, and then people have, you know, I know online isn't for everybody. The ones at the town hall are just 8.5 by 11, you still can't see them. So we'll put up big ones in the arena in the next few days, week or so, that people, if they want to pop in and have a look at them up close, they can see them, and then they can see their particular property.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Thank you, Councillor Weir. Any further comments? No? Okay, I have mayor's comments, and I put them down for you. First of all, as Mr. Spear said, we have a new receptionist, so welcome Ella White. And thank you, Nancy, for training her to assist with the training, because our lovely Cara LaRock was busy getting married. And she's now Cara DeWitt, and she got married last weekend, so we didn't have her for a little bit, but she's back. So we're very happy that you got married, but very happy to have you back. And I still am trying to ask bicyclists, scooters, motorcycles to go one way, down the right way on the one-way street, just because I've seen near accidents. So I ask that you be very, very careful. We have so many people in town. It's just a danger. I am asking again for dogs owners to pick up to have proper scoops to pick up the poop. And I do want to reiterate Ray Cornfield and wife Bev Memory meeting them at Kennedy House, because just in case you missed it, I met them, and his son couldn't believe that he was actually talking to the mayor. So I do want to reiterate that again, that he really was. I'm the deputy mayor, acting mayor of the town of St. Andrews, and I did meet your dad and mom in Kennedy House. So I just want you to know that. I don't know what your name is, but I do know Ray and Bev, and they were very nice. We discussed a lot of things. And I want to note that on August 28th, at the wharf, there will be an official launch of the Indigenous search and rescue boat at 11 a.m. And all are welcome to come and see the official launch of that boat. And the next thing I'd like to say is to Judy and Brian McDonald, who will be celebrating their 50th anniversary. Congratulations, first of all, on such a magnanimous feat. And it will be held at the W.C. O'Neill Arena from 2 to 4 p.m. And council, you are all invited to come and give them best wishes. I certainly do. For 50 years of marriage, that's a wonderful thing. So I think that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Just
We
to
have-
confirm, no questions from,
There are-
or emailed in, your worship.
Oh, thank you. I was going to ask that next. Okay, no questions. We have no closed session, so then we are looking for an adjournment. Counselor Blanchard, and seconded by Counselor Heenan. And so at 8:45 p.m., we need to vote. We need a first and a seconder. That's Counselor Blanchard and Counselor Heenan. And oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. It is 7:45. I said it backwards. 7:45 p.m. We need all those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Carried. We are done. Thank you very much, Council.